Hi everyone, David Orlando again. This week we're doing a presentation on data types. And when I think about data types, I like to think back to my Active Directory administration background. The reason I do that is if you think about what you see in Active Directory is it really presents a good representation of what each data type is. To give a specific example, in Active Directory, I guess, user ID. And for the military, a lot of times it's your EDIPI number, which is burnt onto your CAT card. It's just usually like a 141 and then like 7 or 8 digits long with a dot. And then it's like C for civilian, E for contractor, and then A for military a lot of times. Well, that reference point would be a piece of primitive data. It's a number. It's a thing that's assigned to your account, and you could look at that as kind of an unstructured data type or an unstructured data point. Your collections, if you were to look at that same Active Directory account, your collection of data could be like the login dates for that account. Every single login date, whether it was successful or not unsuccessful, and what does that list look like? And then when you were logged in, and it records that date, that status. It creates a table, and that would kind of be your collection or your array of data that's associated to that account. And then when we get to objects, I mean, Active Directory is basically an object hierarchical database, and that account, the account itself is more like an object. And whenever you double click into that object, you have all the different unstructured or primitive data points that are all associated to that top level object. And then you also have collections or arrays, like the different dates of logins that I talked about, that are associated to that count as well. And that kind of in combination creates your object that can be referenced. So if we reference David Orlando in Active Directory, all those different lists and primitive data entry points or attributes are all associated to that account. For a good example on how you would utilize each one of those, I mean, it's pretty obvious that collections and lists and the different tables that are associated to that account would be historical tracking. For the primitive data, the actual specific attributes that are in there, those work very well for unstructured data management that goes from system to system. So let's say that we have the the Deers or Rapids office that runs CAT cards. The specific attribute in Active Directory may reference whether your account or that EDIPI that connects to that card is still active. And that Rapids database could connect to Active Directory through a cross-domain connection and seek out that specific attribute to be able to say whether your account should still be active or it should be disabled. And then for the object itself, those are typically used for, I guess in my experience, it's been more like whenever we need to set up a script to do a whole bunch of stuff to a whole bunch of different accounts, it's a lot easier to reference the object as an alias for everything that has to do with that account or that object in Active Directory, rather than trying to target each of the select fields in that in each of those, and I call them cards, but they're objects, they're account objects. But it's easier to use that as an alias piece in the form of scripting rather than hitting all the different specific primitive data types that you have, or trying to hit different areas in collections rather than referencing the object. Same thing with collections. It's easier to reference a list if you need the whole list than it is to reference a specific line item in the list. So it's a hierarchical setup for each data type, and you kind of move up higher and higher and higher. And we could even go a step higher and say that all the account objects are kept in a root level object or root level container, which is an organizational unit. So that's just an example using Active Directory. Using programming, the concept and the delivery is similar. It may not be the same, but it is efficient, and Active Directory is set up that way for a reason. So when you go over to Python or JavaScript or C++, those data types are used in a very similar way. It's just the code ends up being different. But that's my video. I appreciate any feedback. Thanks, everyone.